Hello and welcome to the Spare Change podcast. Today I have on a very special guest, my wife. Hey Brandi, how are you doing?
Doing all right. How are you?
I'm doing okay. So just for everybody out there listening, tomorrow it's going to be Brandi's birthday. So we are talking about birthday money, gift giving, all of the finances that surround growing up. We're gonna jump into all of those things. I've kind of given people background on, how I grew up. Most of it was Putnam County, poorest county in all of Florida, and then just seeing how people dealt with being below the poverty line. What are some things that you noticed about your childhood that stick out to you about finances, about how people deal with money, how people don't deal with money that kind of stick out to you?
Yeah. So my mom was my mom was kind of the penny pincher of the family. However, my dad was gambling. He wasn't really the best with it. When he found money, he tried to multiply it, but not in the best way. Um, and that kind of stuck out to me because, gambling, you lose your family funds and stuff like that. Um, but also watching my mom penny pinch and distribute money out of her own pockets without my dad. So, five kids. I have four other siblings, and she made us dinner every night. She would try to make lunch throughout the day. She would wake up early enough to make us breakfast. But if you look at how much groceries cost just for like a 3 member family, it's kind of a lot of money. So I couldn't imagine feeding five kids plus herself and then my dad.
I know for me, so my mom had both of my sisters when I was 8. So she had a set of twins that, whether or not she was prepared, they were there. And one of the things that I noticed growing up, it was like every time we took a trip to Walmart on a weekend, it ended up being like multiple hundreds of dollars just to feed us all and just to keep us all at the status quo, keep us all clothed, watered, fed. All of that was a significant amount of their income. Now, lucky for me, we didn't have too many problems with employment or being able to find work in the family. Like my my stepdad was a mechanic, my mom was a dental hygienist, and that's just, they knew what their income was. Where I found most of their financial issues came from was the way that they controlled finances in the house. So my stepdad had a lot of say in what money was being spent on, or even my mom maybe didn't understand like the full concept of how much money was going out versus what was coming in, because some of that was not under her direct control, or she wasn't always watching it. And they bought a lot of things they couldn't afford, whether it was a boat or a new car or this or that, and RV, trampoline, pool. Like we had things, but could we afford them? Maybe not.
Yeah. So it's kind of funny that you say that because about your family always having a job because my dad was one of those jack of all trades, master of none type of guys. So like he did construction, he did plumbing, he did DJing, anything that you could think of, my dad probably did as a trade. Now, my mom on the other hand, she did the last job I could think that she did when I was a child was data entry. And I have no idea what happened. I think the company just had a bunch of people let go and laid off. They couldn't afford them or something like that. And then that was when I was, I believe, 10 years old. But she hasn't had a job since I was like, or until I was like 19, 20. And then she was, working at a hotel. But somehow, some way, she always made money. Like
Right.
she always had something supporting her. Now, that could be anything from government assistance to reaching out to my dad, seeing if he could send her some money. But there was always some way she made it feasible, which I admired.
I think one of the things that is very significant about what you just said is when you are in a position of need, it almost becomes a survival aspect of no matter how bad this gets, I'm going to find a way to make things work, to make the money I need to make. And it becomes really difficult for people who don't have those resources, whether it's, welfare or Section 8 or all these government programs are in place to help people, but not everybody goes and gets the help or is able to even get the help when they are in a position of need. Um, I'm trying to kind of wrap my head around how to say this, but there was also something you brought up where, around the time you were 9 or 10 years old. So I think for both of us, me being born in 98, you being born in 99, around 2008 was the time that we were really starting to perceive, how bad financial situations could get for a lot of our families growing up. With the market crashing and people losing their jobs and getting laid off, and their investments are falling apart or whatever it might be, people start to react very emotionally, and there's an emotional tie to the way that we all handle our finances. And when you're emotionally distraught or mentally unstable, or there's an issue with just the way that you mentally process the dollar signs and the numbers in your bank account, whatever they may be, it can be a huge hindrance and a burden to you daily to think about money and nonstop think about money. Um, I know a lot of the things that I do for work. I see people, in a tip-based economy, they'll worry so much about, one interaction with a customer can be the difference between, feeding themselves or feeding their family. And that's for a lot of people out there. So I can relate to that in a sense where there's this emotional connection to money, and it can be a huge part of the reason that we don't all talk about it. But I think the important part is to have conversations, is to kind of learn from other people around you so that you understand, maybe my situation isn't so dire. Maybe there are other people like me that have been through the same things that I'm going through that can help me. And we're seeing it again now where modern economy isn't the greatest, and a lot of people are struggling. So in the military, it's a thing where, you're all experiencing the same exact bad situation all at the same time, and they call it embracing the suck. Now, that's not the best way to say it to everybody else, but if you kind of lean into understanding that your situation is bad, that can propel you forward in a lot of ways. If you understand your situation is bad, you'll begin to look for solutions, and you'll begin to look for, those brighter sides of things. Not everything has to be about money, and you can kind of take a step away for your mental health to improve yourself in that way. I don't know if there's any specific moments in your life that you've had or experienced, but when you were in a different headspace around money, when you weren't so focused on, how do I make it to the next paycheck? Like what emotional situations have you found yourself in with money, and how have you gotten through them?
Yeah, so it's kind of funny because I've always been money conscious just because of my upbringing. It's always been money tight. However, um, these past years, when I was working with some amazing bosses, I was not working paycheck to paycheck. I was actually able to put things into my savings. I was actually able to, get things to put towards our house and stuff like that. So it was actually a lot less stressful when I knew that I had stuff to go to if I had that rainy day, or if I got a speeding ticket, or just those like unexpected fees. It was a lot easier, and I didn't go into a dark place. Now, before then, it was a really big toll on me because I was like, man, if this cop pulls me over because I didn't fully stop at the stop sign, or man, I really want to go out with my friends, but their parents gave them money, and I can't do that. I had to work for mine, or I have to pick up an extra shift if I actually want to go out with them. And it I just felt like I was trading too much time for money that wasn't worth it, because I was getting nothing. I was getting maybe a meal or two out of my paychecks.
I think some of the things that you discussed, there's broader terms for it, but when you talk about things like, the value of your time and how many hours do you really want to put into your work just to meet your bills, and you can find better ways to earn money. There's a growing market for gig economics and tip based jobs. There's a growing market for digital services. If you can provide value, that's in itself a business, whether that's an Instagram page or you're selling products and you have e-commerce. There are so many ways to make money now that there weren't before. And I think that the as dark as the topic of finance and economics is, there's a big push for things to get easier and things to be more streamlined for people to make money. And I think there's a growing number of ways to do the things that you need to achieve your financial goals. You I'll cut that one out. And so some of the aspects of emotions with money, there might be simpler answers. I don't have, a full grasp on the intersections of psychology and finance, but just understanding that, and I like the way that Kevin Hart puts it, where he talks about staying in your financial lane. He's got a lot of money, but he didn't have, some of the people in his circle had, close down an amusement park and rent it for the day money, and he didn't have that type of money. But his kids got exposed to, that experience of being alone in a theme park with just your closest friends and family. When we're talking about things like that, like when you see other people succeed, and this is just a common reoccurring topic that I go over, when you see other people succeed, you don't know what it took them to get there or how exactly they're funding what you see as success. Someone can have a really nice car in their front yard. It doesn't mean it's being paid for immediately. They could have a car note for the next 4 years, and you don't want to end up in that same situation. And I know a lot of people get caught up in what they see on TV or on their phones with money. Any examples that you can think of where people kind of see another person's success and get too caught up?
Um, just to be able to, you know, put it out there, like a lot of influencers, a lot of people watch YouTubers or podcasters or stuff like that. And a lot of them do these amazing things, get their own houses, um, create content and stuff like that. But most people don't realize that it's not their money. They're getting sponsorships, they're getting grants, they're getting what are they called? Not loans, but it's kind of like a grant. Um, and it's just that car's not theirs, or that house isn't theirs. One specific brand deal, that's what I was trying to come up with, brand deals, is working with them because they like the way that they're reaching to people.
Yeah. It's
So
like a sales tactic where they
yeah,
give another person a product and say, if you promote this for us, you can have it for free type vibes.
right. So a lot of people do that in real life too. So it's not necessarily famous celebrities or influencer stuff or stuff like that, but there's people who take money from family, and then instead of, paying off their debts or whatever, they go to Disney World. There's people who, get that nice Mustang or that brand new Ford truck or something like that, and they have so many down payments, or like so many car notes that they have to pay off for it. Um I'm trying to think. There's so many examples of people not using their own money for things.
Yeah, and it doesn't come without its own risk. Just recently, I've seen, you know, not that it affects her net worth in any way, shape, or form, but Kim Kardashian got put in the spotlight for not letting people know that she was advertising for a certain NFT company, and she was pushing a certain NFT or crypto asset. And the way that she spoke about it, she didn't mention that they had sponsored it and that she didn't like own it.
Yeah, that's
Um,
very touchy.
so she got hit with $1 million fine. Or even Drake does commercials for Stake, which is online gambling with cryptocurrency. And I think it's crazy that someone with that much following isn't facing, some sort of criticism for promoting gambling and encouraging, a safe environment where people can gamble their assets. Like, it's a little concerning. And I think that plays into the whole social media sphere of things where, when you're trusting everything you see online, and just because you follow this celebrity doesn't mean that they have your best interests at heart or that they care about how your finances are going. A lot of these people, and I'm not guaranteeing that it's, your favorite rapper, but someone that is highly popular on social media and is telling you, you're guaranteed to make a profit on this.
Uh,
Are they your financial advisor? Are they someone who's accredited in any way, shape, or form? Most likely not. And the majority of those outcomes don't turn out as positive as they're preached to you.
yeah, I also want to touch on the fact of like your favorite celebrity might have a net worth of $10 million, but that doesn't necessarily mean what's in their bank account either. Um, who was it? Kanye who went bankrupt, but yet he was still famous, and his net worth was what, millions of dollars.
I'm not going to talk crap on going bankrupt. It is a tool.
No, I'm not
Um,
saying it's bad. I'm just saying that what you see, no matter if you're like, oh, he's got a record deal, or they're on the Billboard top charts, it doesn't always mean that they're making a lot of money, because their record deal is making more off of their songs and their albums than the artist themselves is making. So that happens to celebrities. Why wouldn't it happen to the average person who is trying to make it in life?
and I think it's just the amount of people that we're able to see now versus in the past. You would turn on the TV for a little bit, you'd see a show with some faces you'd recognize. Now you're seeing that person every day for however long that you're holding your phone to your face. That can become a problem because then you're exposed to parasocial relationships. And how connected do you feel to someone? And when you feel so overly connected with someone, you'll take everything that they say as the gospel, and it can often distract you from what your true goals are. Not to diss people for, being a fan of somebody, but when you don't do your own research, and that's a huge part of finances, doing your own research, understanding that not everything you read, see, or even hear is going to be the truth. Um, for instance, if you have an example, I know I have a few, but if there's something that you've been told is a good idea, and then you've spent money on it and it turns out to be like actually not even close to a good idea, I'd love to hear about it.
um yeah, so I'm kind of guilty of trading in my cars a lot. And what a lot of people don't know, and you might not know this because you just bought your car outright, was when you trade in your cars, one, what's your left over on your other car gets added on to your new car. So
Mm,
so when a car dealership's like, okay, trade in your old car, we'll pay it off for you. What they're really saying is, we're going to take what's owed on this car, pay it off with your lender, but you still owe us this much. So they add it onto your new car note and you just don't see it in the paperwork. So that's one thing that I've experienced.
I'm learning about this today.
Um,
Um, one of the things that really stood out to me was how little people will tell you about the processes and how to do things in your adult life. Um, my wife and I are first time home buyers last year.
woo woo.
And there was so much that I didn't think about or didn't understand in the home buying process. Um, and it is a good idea in some ways, but did I weigh the risks and understand fully what I was getting myself into? Maybe not. Um, I had never rented a home. The only places I had lived was with family and wherever the military put me. So I had no understanding of what it was to rent versus own a home. Um, no understanding of how equity or escrow worked. Those things all became an important part of my life later on. Um, Also paying property taxes. I had never done that before. That was a huge surprise to me because, I lived in Florida, so tax wasn't as high and state tax didn't exist. So there's all these new aspects financially that I have to worry about. Even my car having to,
Inspections.
do state inspections. That's crazy. In Florida, if no one is aware, I'll let you become aware. The place is the Wild West. As far as like regulations and rules on what you have to do to manage your assets, it's so much less restrictive.
If your bumper is falling off your car, but you tied it up with bungee cords, it's good. Here, it won't cut it.
And I think it's not exclusive to us, but I think a lot of people, before you make a significant investment and you throw a lot of your money at something, at least understand what you're getting yourself into. Um, I didn't really understand how credit or interest worked or how to improve those situations. Um, I definitely have resources and things that I've learned along the way. I'll plug a few of them in the description. But what are some things financially that you would tell people? Like, let's say someone jumps into a car loan. What are some things they should have considered before they did that?
uh, Percentage on interest. Um, let's see. Doing the research on the car that you want it to get, because if that car brand or that car type is notorious for engine problems or oil leaks, or I'm not having these problems with my car, but it's just doing the research on the thing that you're putting your money towards. Um because if you went into the store and you're like, hey, I'm gonna buy this big bag of potato chips, and you knew you were buying a bag of potato chips, but when you opened it up, it was a bag of air, then you kind of just wasted your money.
The excuse they provide for that one is that it's to preserve the food inside. Um,
Sure.
I don't think cars and houses are the same way. I don't think there's an excuse as for other than to benefit the lender on the back end. I don't think there's an excuse for how much they charge an interest or how reliable something is. But yeah, I think the highlight there is to do your research. And then I guess there's a few other things we can talk about really quick. what are some of your financial goals moving forward? What are some things that you still want to learn?
Yeah. So I've always been good at saving money. I was always one of those kids where if I was gonna buy a meal, I was also gonna put how much that meal costs into my savings, or I would have a set amount each month to put into my savings. Um, so I want to learn how to double my savings without putting too much risk into it as well. Um, what else? I want to open my own brick and mortar. So that's exciting, trying to work on, but it's giving me more opportunity to learn about, you know, investors and reaching out to your community and stuff like that. A lot of people don't think that they can start something, whether it's online or a brick and mortar, just because they have nothing. Most of the businesses that start up are people who have nothing. You This is a really touchy subject, but a lot of people go in debt before they get money, before they reach wealth or what they consider wealth. Um, Especially like first time business owners. They open up and they're like, woo, I'm making a whole bunch of money because I have a whole bunch of customers, but they're still within their first year or two and they're paying themselves way too much and they're not investing it back into their business. That's something I learned where that's where most why the percentage of first time business owners fail is because they pay themselves too much and they don't invest back into themselves. They don't do enough research in their market, stuff like that.
I'm gonna put us back just a little
Sorry.
bit. No, I'm gonna put us back just a little bit in the timeline.
Yeah.
So at FinCon, the last episode that we recorded was with Hassan. And one of the things that he talked about is having a plan. One of the most important aspects of whether, like we talked about, buying an asset or starting a business, trying to build yourself out financially and build wealth. If you haven't planned on the front end, which is what we've been doing for a long time now, a little over a year, is we've been planning for what business do we want to start, what industry is it in, how much money is it going to cost, who are the key players, who's going to be a part of our community, who can we network with as other businesses, and how can we build ourselves in a way where we will see success rather than having to learn new lessons and start all over again.
And we also want, like, one of the main questions was how do we put a business in that's going to give back to the community and not just give to us? Because we don't want a selfish business. We want to make sure that we can give back.
I completely agree. We are running just a little short on time, but one thing I do want to let people know is where they can find you. And one of the things that I always love to do is highlight, like you said, looking forward, you're gonna try and work towards this business that we've been talking about. And then one of the key factors is I'm going to bring you back for an episode in the future and we'll talk about where we were then and where we are in the future and how we've come along with our goals.
Yeah, so 1 second. I actually don't know my tag. What is my tag for my LinkedIn? Because that's what I would give them. Here, you help
Just
me.
make sure you say a full sentence when you or just say you can find me on LinkedIn. That's your
Okay.
name.
You can find me on.
Are you good?
No, because I feel awkward. Okay. All right.
All right. So
You
where
can.
can damn girl jump the gun. All right. So one of the last things I wanted to kind of say before we let you go back to what you were doing before I held you in here. Where can people find you? And, what would you want people to maybe help you with when they find you? Or what are some of the things that you look to providing as a resource?
Yeah, so you can find me on LinkedIn. It's under Brandy Black. Um, I would like if anybody could reach out to me with any type of first time brick and mortar business, any tips, trades, what everybody would be interested in seeing, whether it's a new business idea that they're thinking about or what something that they think is cool. And I would also like to just reach out to anybody who would like to get back to their community and knows a specific um charity or anything that they have on their mind that most people don't know about.
All right. Thank you for coming on, Brandy. Look forward to having you again sometime. Um, hope dinner was good.
It was
All right. You guys have a great one. Thank you for tuning in.